Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mental Health Matters with your host, Dr. Mglowiak. It's a great pleasure that I welcome you to our second episode. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you who reached out in support of the show. It's been so affirming over the past month, receiving all the positive feedback, the interest, and all the welcoming invitations to be able to do this show for all of you. Now, with that being said, it's been really great to be able to see that people recognize the importance of mental health. So, like we talked about, the purpose of this show is to be able to go through and destigmatize a topic that's very challenging for many people to talk about. Not only is it something that's challenging to talk about, but it's something that people may not understand. And the reality of the situation, as I stated in our very first episode, is that at various times throughout our lives, we may go through some different issues here that need to be addressed. So, with that being said, we're going to continue to talk about different topics as we go along. Now, I have some good news and I have some bad news for you. I already shared the good news. So, the good news is that I had a lot of individuals reach out, sharing their thoughts for the show, giving some support, and really encouraging me to continue. Now, the bad news is, as you can see here, I haven't gotten a guest yet. So, as I stated in the first episode, I'm encouraging you to reach out. Please do feel free if you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you want to ask any questions live, if you would like to talk about something that's meaningful to you, something that perhaps is some type of issue that you would like to work through, please do reach out. And again, you can email me at dr.mglowiak@gmail.com. And we also now have the Mental Health Matters page on Facebook, and we're also located on the Bolingbrook patch, and you can see us in the Bolingbrook Friends and Family community page on Facebook as well. So let's just jump right into it. So today's topic is one where I received a few inquiries, and this one's regarding adolescence. Yes, adolescence. I know this can be a particularly challenging time for adolescents and the parents as well. As a clinician who's one of the clinical directors at a private practice, Counseling Speaks, one of the common phone calls that we receive from people, and same from the inquiries I receive from all of you here over the past couple of weeks here, is that adolescents, they end up coming to a time where, what's going on? I feel like my little baby is starting to grow up, is no longer interested in the same types of things anymore, wants to be distant from me, seems to be going through some different types of challenges, and I really don't know what's going on. And my favorite thing as well is when I meet the adolescent and the parent for the first time, is that parent who comes in and says, there's all these issues with my child, fix my child, take care of it, I'm leaving this with you. Okay, you know why that makes me laugh? Well, the reason that makes me laugh is because when we sit there and we take a look at what's going on with the adolescent, oftentimes we may misconstrue things that are very typical to adolescent development and see them as being something that's abnormal. Further, we may see some communication issues between the parent and the child that are creating some types of complexities. So when individuals come in, they tell me, fix my child, the first thing I think of is, okay, how can I work with the family system? So what we're going to talk about today are some of the normal developmental milestones that we see with adolescents. And when I say adolescent, I'm talking about your teenager, teens from 13 to 18 years old. We can also include tweens. We talk about the 11 and 12-year-olds as well. Some individuals can get to that type of mindset a little bit earlier. So that's going to be the age frame that we discuss. Take a look at some of the normal development, take a look at some of the challenges that we've got going on, and then we're going to also take a look at some of the communication issues we might have between the parents and the children. Then we're going to take a look at some of the abnormal development. So what are some of the warning signs we can look for to see what might actually be a problem that's going on with this adolescent? We'll discuss some ways that we can address it, and then finally we'll conclude with some information insofar as suicidal ideation, worries about suicide attempts, and where you can reach out to as appropriate. So let's get started. So when we take a look at adolescent development, one of the things that we have to consider is that this is a very pivotal moment in life. There's a lot of different things that are going on for the adolescent, both externally and internally. So let's take a look at this. As a child develops, we're in the nest, the parents are of the primary support. We take a look at elementary school. Typically at elementary school, especially in the Bolingbrook area, we see children typically stay in the same classroom with the same teacher throughout the day. It's a source of comfort. I know the teacher, I know my peers, I know some of the extracurricular activity coaches and instructors I'm dealing with, and we're here in the same type of environment, and there's not very much change within that. We're learning a lot and we're continuing to develop physically. However, it's a source of comfort. Now, when we take a look at middle school, we start to add some additional layers into that. In middle school, we start to change classes more often. We have lockers where we keep our stuff. There's a different group of friends we may not have been with for those same 6 years while we were in elementary school. We start to get engaged in different activities. Activities that were not offered in elementary school are now offered in middle school. And there are some additional complexities that continue to go on there as we continue to identify who we are. As we go through cognitive development, we become more aware. We start to look at things and we start to question things a little bit differently. And we start to have this sense of independence that we didn't have before. So now, instead of primarily focusing on our parents, who are the people who comfort us, the people who support us, the people who teach us, we adopt a lot of their ideals and so on and so forth. We're now confronted with all these different ideals. We have the ideals of our friends and our different peer groups. We have the ideals of a variety of different instructors. We have the ideals of our different coaches who we may be working with, and so on and so forth. So now, when we're going through this, the adolescent may be exposed to different things that contrast from what one might have grown up with. Some of the things that we held cherished in the household, the different beliefs and values that we had, when they become challenged, the child or the adolescent starts to inquire as to what's going on. And then when we move into high school, again, we have even more students in the school. We have more diversity in terms of the classroom. There are more extracurricular activities that are offered, and even more independence as we go through to different things, like perhaps, as the children get older, they're walking to school more. They may be taking rides with different children, maybe driving to school themselves, maybe having a job, things like that. Again, giving some more independence, being able to pay for things with their own money and so on. So we have all these different types of factors that are at play. Further, we can take a look at the physiological changes. Now, there is no doubt whatsoever, and one of the things that I believe is very minimally understood is the power of going through puberty, the different types of hormonal changes that an individual goes through. Now, when we sit here and we take a look at it, hormones are quite significant. They are very powerful. Now, oftentimes when we think about brain development, we think about neurotransmitters, we think about dopamine, serotonin. These different types of things are activated when we're in a situation that may lead toward excitement, may lead toward something that makes us happy, and so on. However, hormones do take on a very similar type of characteristic, and these things go quite vampant as we continue throughout the puberty ages. As we're going through here, we may be releasing different levels of serotonin. Like I said in the very first episode, believe it or not, majority of the serotonin that we have is going to be produced within the gut. So we see that at more of a hormonal type of level. We see different changes in cortisol. We see different changes in testosterone. We see different changes in estrogen. We see different changes oxytocin. I'm going to save you the science lesson, but really what I'm getting at here is it's a very turbulent phase for individuals. And sometimes we may see an adolescent go through a period of being very happy-go-lucky, having a great day, and then suddenly something seemingly insignificant may trigger the adolescent to act out in rage, be very upset, get into a crying spell. And we're thinking right away, oh, wow, is there some type of mental health disorder that's going on with the child? Well, there may be, but in all likelihood, it's probably attributed to these physiological changes that we've got going on. And the more we know about them, the more that we're going to be able to act in accordance working with our adolescent. So let's lay some of the stuff out. So let's take a step back here. So what is normal adolescent development? Well, normal adolescent development is a period of change. Like I said from the very beginning, we're exposed to a lot of different things. So with that being said, children moving into adolescence are really starting to question themselves to a degree that they might not have ever before. The question, who am I, becomes ever so important. And we may identify ourselves as different types of things. We may identify ourselves based off different demographics. We can see ourselves by the color of our skin. We may see ourselves by whatever type of ethnic heritage we have, whether it's something that we were raised in a different country, maybe something that we're exposed to through our family and going through generational lineage and so on and so forth. We may take a look at our age and what the significance is with that there. May take a look at the generation and what that means. Generations are constantly changing as we go throughout in terms of what we have going on. You take a look back at the baby boomer generation, and these individuals were people who had hard work ethic, believed in loyalty to a specific job, stayed there for an extended period of time, got their pension, and found a lot of pride in that and being able to work for somebody else. But now as we go into more of the millennial generation and pushing forward, we see some more independence. We see some more entrepreneurship. We see individuals wanting to collaborate, to want to be able to work together. And it really breaks the mold of some of the stuff that we've seen in the past. Now, what's really great, and I'll have another episode on this later, is when we talk about society as a whole. While we take a look and see that there is a lot of discrimination and there is a lot of racism, future trends and where we're at right now is really starting to lead toward that collaboration of being able to appreciate people who they are, being able to work together, being able to find different strengths, with different individuals. So with that being said, we can oftentimes see as individuals are trying to define who they are, they're trying to figure out these things that they've been raised with, but also trying to incorporate it into society. So what's around me? So am I, similar to other people who are in the high school in general? Or am I going to be similar to people who are in some very specific types of groups? We could take a look in, some of those names that we've given before, take a look at the athletes. We can take a look at the individuals who are more in the scholastic type of clubs. Take a look at the individuals who are maybe in the more the interpersonal type things, the peer mediators and so on. Take a look at the band, individuals who are into music. Are you into the marching band? Are you into the jazz band and so on? And when you get involved with those different types of groups, again, these different types of ideals are going to be shared with you. And what we find is sometimes we adopt some of these and sometimes we reject some of these. A lot of factors go into who am I as a person. Again, at this age, we might be taking a look at who we believe we're going to be in the future. As a child, we oftentimes ask that question of, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we give answers. You'd be like me, I want to be an astronaut. Or we have children want to be a firefighter, want to be a policeman, want to be these very exciting types of things that are going on. And it's exciting as a child. We involve a lot of it with play. However, as we get older, we're getting a lot closer to that end point. So what that means is, okay, when I'm in middle school, I'm having to prepare for high school. When I'm in high school, I'm having to prepare for college. And with that college preparation, with that comes having to attain good grades. We're having to focus on the pressures of finding the appropriate school, have the pressures of trying to select the appropriate major, and this huge fear that might come around it with, well, if I don't make the right choice now, is it going to set me up for failure moving on into the future? And that could be a very scary thing for a lot of individuals who are looking at who am I? What am I going to become? Who am I can also be defined externally. That could be a really great thing. We can see some popular students who receive a lot of feedback for being academically inclined, doing really well in school. Teachers are giving accolades. The child's earning awards, being recognized for different things in the newspaper, being head of different committees, captain of some type of organization, being president of the Student Government National Honor Society. And these are all really great things. However, on the other point, individuals, especially those who are being bullied, might be able to see themselves in a negative light. Other individuals are saying that I'm overweight. I see myself as an overweight person. I can't see myself as being anything else beyond that. People are calling me a nerd. I see myself as a nerd. That's how everybody else sees me. People are telling me I'm weird. There's something wrong with me. People are telling me I'm ugly, I'm undateable. Again, these types of things continue to feed into the individual, and when defining the self, that's really where it comes from. And then we could take on the added pressures of what it is that's going on in the household. So we have all these different types of factors that are going on. Again, adolescence can be a very, very turbulent stage for a lot of individuals, and that type of inquiry is quite normal. And the pressures, I think, are something that we forget as we move on to adulthood. Now, there's no doubt. Here I am as a 36-year-old male, balancing out my professional career, balancing out having a 2- and 3-year-old, trying to find time for my wife and I to have alone, trying to find time for myself and my own exploration. And it could be quite busy, and I'm pulled a lot of different directions. I have responsibility to individuals who are my students. I have responsibility to my clients. I have responsibility to my team members, the employees. I have responsibility to my children, society, paying the bills, and so on. It's a lot of stress. Trust me, I get it. But when I rewind the clock back, a lot, and this is the thing that we have to do when we're trying to work with our children, is take a look at all the stressors that we used to face when we were younger and the things that they're trying to deal with. Trying to fit in with other children is a very challenging thing, and sometimes you could be yourself, and other times it could be quite challenging to be yourself because maybe you don't fit in right away. We have the pressures of trying to please our parents, be a good child, come home on time, get my homework done on time, do some of the chores around the house, be that model child that you always instilled in me growing up throughout all the years. But we also have the pressures of being able to compete with other individuals at school, getting good grades, being ranked in the system in terms of what your GPA is and so on, in terms of athletes, having to figure out, where I'm at, trying to push myself harder to be first in the race instead of second place. All these different pressures are real. Getting the date to the prom is a stressful thing. Getting the date to the homecoming is a stressful thing. Being able to save up enough money at your job to get a car is a stressful thing. All these types of things need to be taken into account. So when we go back to this and we take a look at what are the things that are normal development for children going into adolescence, it's normal to inquire. It's normal to ask questions about self. It's normal to want to be able to seek that independence, to be able to start doing things more for oneself. It's normal to be able to challenge some of the things that have been going on in the household. It's normal to be able to stand up for oneself. It's normal to want some more time alone. It's normal to see some different changes in the way one might dress, the music one listens to, the groups one hangs out with, different TV shows, reading different books, getting into different activities, and so on. So straight on taking a look at it and seeing all this change, it may be something that's very fearful for a parent, but I assure you it's something that is quite normal. Now, some of the things we could take a look at that would be abnormal development, well, those would fall around the areas of being able to notice some quite significant changes within your child. So, for instance, completely losing touch with things one was interested in. And when I say completely losing touch with things that someone was interested is having something, the child had grown up loving for so many years and suddenly losing interest, not replacing it with something else, not having a reason for losing interest in this. Being combative with you all the time about every single thing for no reason and not being able to justify exactly what it is that's going on. Not being comfortable talking with you. And that might be something that's also an issue in terms of the communication that you have with your child. Noticing that your child has a sudden dip in grades, all of a sudden the straight A student is now getting D's and F's. And even worse than getting the D's and F's, perhaps the child's struggling, and we could go through this type of thing. You can go in honors classes in high school or just have some challenging classes and struggle, and you see your child trying best effort to be able to be successful and not catching on is going to be different than just not caring anymore and completely losing interest. So that could be something that could be a red flag. Doing things in terms of the antisocial type behavior, going out and breaking things, being destructive, staying out past curfew all the time, those types of things can be indicative of a problem. Engaging in, drug use, coming home drunk, sneaking alcohol in the house, taking pills, being high and just not caring about it or engaging in that type of conversation with you. That type of thing can be problematic. Coming home and just completely withdrawing, not talking about anything, or going into episodes of having crying spells, being angry all the time. These types of things are the types of things that we can notice. And first and foremost, what's really important for you to be able to do as a parent is to be able to speak to your child openly, honestly, and be empathic with your child. Listen to your child and give your child the opportunity to be able to speak. Now, we talk about different types of parenting styles, and I'm not going to get into all of them here. However, there are three that we might consider at this given moment. We have the authoritarian parent. The authoritarian parent is the person that it's my way or the highway. I have no reasons why you need to behave the certain way that you do, but if you don't do it, there's going to be some very serious repercussions for it. In doing that type of thing, it might elicit the type of behavior you want from your child. However, it also elicits fear in the child. It stymies independence, so the child's not able to think for oneself and be able to try different things. And it can also lead toward resentment. And when we have this type of resentment, the child just really grows up having a grudge toward you, doesn't feel comfortable speaking to you, and so on. We have the laissez-faire parent. This is the parent who might say, hey, We're best friends. You can tell me anything. It's cool. It's calm. Don't worry about it. I'm by your side all the time. It's perfectly fine. Stay out as late as you want. I have no issue with you using drugs. Invite anybody over. Totally cool. We're buddies. I'm here to support you till the end. Now, the issue with this type of parent is that although the child may be very close to you, it's not the type of rearing practice you want to have, because this type of parenting practice doesn't instill boundaries in the child. It doesn't help the child recognize, important values, doesn't recognize the importance of, keeping up with obligations, with time management, the importance of achieving good grades to be able to get to school, and so on and so forth moving forward. This doesn't set a very good type of example, and that's something you can follow forward. But what we have is the authoritative type parent, so authoritative, not authoritarian. The authoritative parent has rules, has consequences, but most importantly has reasons for the rules, can explain why I want you home by 9 o'clock, why I want you to do the dishes and take out the trash, why I think it's important for you to not hang out with this group of friends who's out engaging in antisocial types of behaviors and so on. And I'm going to listen to what you have to say. Now, in the end, I might not agree with what you have to say. You might not get what it is that you want. However, I'm here and I'm going to listen to you. And that's ever so important, because that's going to welcome the child to be able to speak to you. The child can love you. The child can be open. The child can come to you for advice. And guess what? Your child's likely going to respect you. And that's ever so important to have that type of dynamic with your child. And this is the type of communication where if the child is struggling, we'll be able to come out to you and be able to have those conversations that are ever so important. And this could be the difference between the adolescent going through and feeling comfortable with oneself or feeling completely uncomfortable with oneself. Because keep in mind, the parent is the most important influencer in that child adolescent's life. And you have this opportunity, and while you're the parent throughout the adolescent's life, the child's life, you have a very short opportunity to be able to have the heaviest influence, and that's between those ages of 0 through 18. So it's so important that you're there and you're able to do that. You don't want to be dismissive of the type of things that your child is sharing with you. And what I mean by that is if your child comes home and is feeling down in the dumps because didn't get asked to go out on the homecoming date or something like that, and say, oh, it's no big deal, you're just overreacting, don't worry about it, you're perfectly fine. Keep in mind, that is the adolescence world. That is the most important thing to your child at that time. We cannot minimize what it is that's going on. Not getting picked for the team. Again, it may not seem like the biggest deal in the grand scheme of life. However, at that moment in time, that is the most important thing to that adolescent. And we know going through breakups, breaking up is hard to do. The heart does all sorts of wild things to us. Again, with all the hormones that are going wild, our brain's not fully functioning to the way it should be in terms of the development, that prefrontal cortex isn't fully there. The adolescent does not see that. They do not grasp this. So it's so important to be there, listen, empathize with the adolescent, let the child say what has to be said, and be there, supportive, and that's the thing that you can do. Do not be dismissive. We cannot minimize these types of things. But on the other end, we also don't want to over-exaggerate every single thing that's going on. Sometimes we'll have children who get involved with the wrong group and perhaps, one time go out and smoke marijuana with a group of friends, for instance. And I've had parents overreact to the extent of, my child smoked marijuana this one time, going down the wrong path. I don't want to continue seeing this. What are we going to do? I want the child in counseling 3 days a week. Let's do IOP. I'm going to completely take away the internet. That's not going to be an option anymore. Can't go out for all of summer, so 3 months not going out. I'm going to be a hover parent. That might be a little bit of overkill and that type of thing, because yes, while it is very scary that adolescents may use drugs, it's one of those things too that we have to be very open about in the conversation. While we don't want them going down that path, we have to have very realistic conversations with them, and the response that we have needs to be something that's extremely practical, because again, that could be something that's very off-putting to your adolescent. So being able to have those types of conversations is going to be ever so important and meaningful. Now, one of the things that we worry about as well is taking a look at different mental health disorders. With adolescents, we do see different disorders that can go on. Now, What we see is a trend of about 15 to 18% of adolescents do have some type of diagnosable mental health disorder, whether that's major depressive disorder, some type of anxiety disorder not otherwise specified, perhaps some types of substance use disorder. So they definitely are out there, and they definitely are things that warrant some further exploration and taking a look at. So if you do have a child who you believe has some type of mental health disorder, does need some additional assistance, first and foremost, speak to your child about it. Share the concerns that you have. Don't come from a place where it's something that's going to be attacking or something where it's a place that's going to be punitive, but I have some concerns for you right now. I've noticed that you've been very distant. I've noticed that you cry a lot. You've stopped caring about school. What's going on? I want to be here and I want to be able to support you through this. Being able to reach out and find the appropriate resources. Within the community, there are lots of resources that are available within the school, the guidance counselor office, the school counselor. There are different counseling clinics within the community. My own practice, Counseling Speaks as well. There are different resources that you can reach out to in terms of community groups that you can take a look at and get involved in. But the important thing is for the parent to be as involved with the child through the counseling process. There is no fix my child, let's get this done. Because if there are changes you want to seek with your child, with your adolescent, there are things that you need to do as well. An adolescent can only be accountable for so much. Ultimately, you're the parent, you're the caregiver, and you're the individual who has the final say with a lot of these different things that are going on in the adolescent's life. So the change you want to see there is also some change that should be happening with you. So if you want your child to go to support groups, you should be in attendance with those. If you want your child to go to counseling, it's helpful for you to go to those as well. However, with this too, you want to limit how much interaction. So you want the child to have some independence and be able to facilitate an individual relationship as well. But be involved. Ask questions of the professional. Continue to follow up on different homework assignments. If there are changes and things that you should be doing as well, be sure to engage in those. While I realize that your life is busy, it's not an excuse to say I want my child to change, but I don't have time to be able to be involved with this. I'm not going to be able to drive my child to these different types of things. Finances are something that I'm not going to be able to piece together, because the reality is that although it may be difficult to find free or low-cost resources, they are available and they are out there. Now, one of the things I would like to share with you right now is a resource. It's a national resource for suicide prevention. Now, one of the things that we do want to look for with individuals, if you do believe that your adolescent is experiencing some type of suicidal ideation, again, it's important to ask the questions. Look for some of the warning signs. And some of these warning signs may include, like I said before, some type of distancing, maybe giving away some of the things to other friends, maybe feeling very down or acting out of character, maybe talking about it, sharing, I just feel like ending my life, I feel like killing myself, and so on. And these are things that should be taken seriously. And do realize that talking about it isn't going to be the thing that's going to push the adolescent over the edge. As a matter of fact, not talking about it could be the thing that leads toward even more problems. So with that, some of the free resources that you can have, and one that I would like to share right now is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Phone number is 800-273-8255. This is suicidepreventionlifeline.org. And the great thing about this website is that not only does it share resources for actually being in the moment of having an adolescent who you believe is suicidal, but also share some of the warning signs of things you could look for. There's a chat feature where you may ask questions, or you may direct your adolescent to go through and be able to do an anonymous, discreet chat. And you can also call the number. So I encourage you to reach out to that or any of the available resources. And as always, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me at dr.mglowiak@gmail.com. Reach out to us at the Facebook page for Mental Health Matters, or go through the Bolingbrook patch, go through the Bolingbrook Friends and Family on Facebook, and know that we're here to help. This is a show that's about you. And also feel free to bring your topics to us. And I hope to have a guest the next time on the show. Thank you so much.